Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our regular meeting, and Happy New Year to you all. Okay, we will now call the meeting to order. And the agenda is there before you. Can I have a motion to approve, please? Moved by Councillor Tilley, seconded by Councillor Crowley. Further discussion? If not, all those in favour? Those against, motion is carried. Minutes of the meeting from December the 10th. Are there any errors or omissions? No? Okay. Any business arising? If not, we'll move on to correspondence. Madam CEO, any correspondence?
Nothing to be tabled at the moment.
Okay, thank you. And now we'll move on to planning and development update. So in the absence, just want to advise council that, and the public that our deputy mayor was unable to attend the meeting tonight for personal reasons. So Councillor Windsor, you can do the public.
Thank you,
the
Mayor,
planning
and
development.
it's very brief, so I'll remain seated if that's okay with everybody. Planning and Development Committee has not met since the break. We have a committee meeting scheduled. We're trying to schedule it in for next week or the week after, pending availability and wellness of committee members. So that's that. And item B, permits. There are no new permits issued since the last regular meeting of council. So that's it for planning and development. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. And now we'll move on to recreation and community events. Councillor King, or Councillor Tilley and Councillor Sadie King. The wrong King.
We don't have a lot to report either this evening. We haven't had our meeting until next week. The only thing I've got to add is the department business plan has been completed and will be reviewed by the committee at our next meeting. The Christmas parade was a great turnout. We thank all those who registered and participated. And I'd like to say a special thank you to our own staff for the great job they did on the float that we had in the parade. And they also did a great job with the building here as well and the park lighting. So our staff is to be commended. All other Christmas events, including our ornament making, board painting, Camp Ahoy, and park lighting, were all a great success and very well attended. We are going to start getting ready now for the Crystal Carnival. That will take place in February, so discussions will take place on activities at our next meeting. That's it for me.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor King. Any questions, comments? All right. So now we'll move on to infrastructure and public works, and we have Councillor Windsor and Councillor King again.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll stand this time because there is a motion. Okay, so by way of an update, just a few little points there. Similar to other committees, we have not met since the break. We have scheduled a meeting for January 23rd. Also, our 2025 business plan has been developed, and that document will be reviewed by both the Infrastructure, Public Works, and the Planning and Development Committees. Then, once we've completed that review, pass it before council, it'll be published and available to the public on the town's website.
Good.
And the last point on the update, just to comment on our recent storm. So, we fared rather well compared to other communities, certainly in the province. And a lot of that is just good luck and where we're oriented on the coast. That's it, right? But staff, I must commend them for completing post-storm site visits, going around the town to our different infrastructure and facilities. There were some minor areas that were affected by windfall or shoulder washouts and things of that nature. Some of those items have already been addressed or in the process of being addressed. And I guess it's a good reminder too, and as it dovetails into the safety committee, the emergency response, the communication, what to do before a storm happens. And then for our longer term planning, we had great success with our ditch clearing campaigns last year, increasing the size of culverts for climate change, things of that nature. Anything we can do to mitigate the risks and improve our situation for the storms. So it's a healthy reminder, and so glad to Town of Holyrood came through relatively unscathed. That's the update, and I do have a motion, sir, before you. Be it resolved, the Town of Holyrood submit a gas tax application in the amount of $22,637.75 for the completion of infrastructure upgrades at Kiley's Lane. This project originated with the replacement of both water and sewer lines, providing services to Kiley's Lane, but due to unforeseen circumstances when the infrastructure was revealed, additional costs associated with complying with new municipal regulations and engineering advice, extra costs of $19,685 plus HSD was incurred. So moved.
Moved by Councillor Windsor. Could I have a seconder, please? Seconded by Councillor King. Further discussion? And these things happen from time to time when you have certain projects and there's a little bit of a cost overrun. So in this situation, we can pay that for the extra cost and will be come out of our gas tax.
Agree, and that's the only comment I would have as well, Mayor. You know, when you put the big shovel in the ground and you expose the pipe that was put there many years ago, and sometimes, you know, past documentation going back many decades is different than what you find in the ground. And of course, then you also have to consider new regulations and making sure everything's up to par, and making sure we're doing it correctly and not just putting things back in the ground and covering it up. Ensuring that the right engineering consultants are engaged and it's all done properly with the oversight required. So not surprising this is going to happen, but I certainly have no issue with the additional cost or change.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments? If not, all those in favor? Motion is carried. All right, so now we'll move on to economic development. We have nothing to report from that committee. There's a few minor items, but nothing that can't wait until the next regular meeting when our deputy mayor, who is pretty well the chair of that committee, and she'll provide further update. Okay, public safety, Councillor King and Councillor Tilley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Happy New Year to everybody and all those watching at home and in the chamber. Dorothy told me not to talk very much tonight. Anyway, I stopped laughing up by the Irving.
Oh,
we didn't
my.
have a public safety meeting either since our last public meeting. But I do have a few points from the fire department and other things, and then Councillor Tilley will also have a few points as well. Okay. From the fire department side, total calls for 2024, ending 31st of December, was 237.
Wow.
And that's a combination of vehicle collisions, medical calls, structural fires, and on and on and on. So you can see if we start talking about what happened when we first came on council in 2021, every single year it's going up, right? So it's going up. The fire department will be hosting a pumper operators course from January 27th to the 31st. This is the first mini regional fire school on the Northeast Avalon. So our department is really excited about that. It's in conjunction with the CBS Fire Department, Torbay, and St. John's Regional. So they are out there doing the training, but they're also collaborating with other fire departments, which is exactly what we've been talking about for the last 4 years. Right?
And if I could interject, Bruce, or Councillor King, these are, when you refer to NFPA, that's
Yep.
National Fire Protection Association, so they are accredited courses.
Yep, absolutely. So they're out there doing training on the weekends and other times as well. This past weekend, we had 11 of our members and 2 members from the CBS Fire Department do the Applied Suicide Intervention Skills Training. We all know today that mental health is a very serious concern amongst everyone. Right? We've had incidents at the Waterford, we've had incidents everywhere. So it is a concern. And the other part of that is at no cost to the department. It was sponsored by the Canadian Mental Health Association and the government of Newfoundland and Labrador. But saying that, even if it was a cost, right? it's I think anyway, and I'm sure most people would think it's money well spent. Because if you can talk somebody out of committing suicide or taking their own life or hurting someone else, then regardless of what the cost is, it's money well spent. At least that's what I think anyway.
And not only that, but based on my previous experience of working in the fire service, is dealing with the families after a situation, a very unfortunate and tragic situation occurs, and then the family is there to witness it.
Yep. It is, and it's great to know that we have people down there now that are trained to be able to talk to somebody or give them, or at least be able to connect them with the right sort of medical treatment, psychologist or whatever. So it's all good. The other part I wanted to talk about, just briefly, is with regards to what happened on the 16th of December down at the RBC. I'm not going to talk about the actual happened, because it's before the courts. People have been charged, so we'll wait till that takes its course. But I also think we need to start asking a lot of questions with regards to how all this stuff happens, right? Because I did a little bit of research on it, and Holyrood, anybody want to take a stab at what number Holyrood fell into with regards to this so-called backhoe bandit? Higher. We, on the 16th of December, this was on the Northeast Avalon, this was the 10th time a financial institution was destroyed, okay? So, for me, anyway, it says, has anybody ever talked about lessons learned? Did the police departments, after the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, say, Jesus, maybe we should go and talk to these construction companies and see if there's a better way to secure heavy equipment. And that, because, I know some of this old machinery is one of these things where the Army used to use the term, one size fits all. But, there still should be a way of being able to secure something that makes it inoperable for people to come there and take it and go down the road and beat the side out of a bank, right? It's crazy. And the last part of that is the response time, right? Because, we have a bank here in Holyrood, and about a kilometer away from the bank is a fully functioning police station with a parking lot full of police cars. So, you wonder, somebody would think, geez, if I'm going to do this, because you're not talking about somebody going in with a mask on and a note and handing it to the teller and saying, give me all your money, putting it into the bag and going out. You're talking about a machine that only travels about 50 kilometers an hour, makes one hell of a racket at 3 o'clock in the morning. And they're able to beat the side out of a bank, take the ATM machine, throw it in the back of a dump truck and drive away, and nobody shows up till after they're gone. There's a lot of questions that need to be asked about this stuff. Because for us here, this bank is a main source of probably comfort for especially senior citizens, because most senior citizens today don't deal with online banking. They like to go to the bank, they like to talk to the teller, they like to pass information back and forth and then go home, right? And there's people here even today are still nervous about traveling through the roundabout. So imagine if they got to go down to manuals and 4 lanes of traffic and try to do their banking. So one of the things that they should look at, I think anyway, is not just the building being beaten down, it's the repercussions and what follows after this, and the people that it affects. And I, for one, and I mentioned this today, if I was the judge and these people, if they were ever found guilty, what I would do, I would take them, put them in a paddy wagon with the sheriff, bring them to Holyrood, book a room down here at the Star or the Legion, get every single person that deals with, especially seniors, go in and have them set up at the front, and every person go up to a microphone and tell these people, if they're found guilty, what their effects have been on them. Right? Almost like a victim impact statement, but instead of making people go in there, have them come here. And then maybe they will realize it's not just beating down the bank, it's the after effects of what happens after the bank is beaten down. Anyway, I'll end there and I'll turn it over to Councillor Tilley. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Before Councillor Tilley picks up where you left off, if I could interject, I just want to let council and the public know that we all know that the investigation into this incident is still ongoing. And so, you know, the RCMP are doing their piece of work. And of course, in regards to the bank itself, the amount of damage, and because a lot of people have been asking me, and I'm sure they've been asking you folks as well, what does the future hold for the bank, given the significant amount of damage that has been done? You know, many people, not only from Holyrood, but in around St. Mary's and all Conception Bay Centre, they have been dealing with the Royal Bank for many, many years. And they have a lot of questions. So I'm going to suggest that at the appropriate time, we will reach out to the Royal Bank and the RCMP, and whether we do a meeting together or we do it separate, but to get an update on the incident that occurred, because we want to try to mitigate this from happening again. Sad to see in any community, and this wasn't a backhoe, this was a loader. This was a brazen act of, of destruction. But from a public safety point of view, as you just pointed out, what are things that we can do as a municipality to help try to work with the RCMP to mitigate these kind of things from happening into the future? And then we'll meet with the Royal Bank officials to find out what is the future, what do the future hold, and the timeline in dealing with the situation at the Royal Bank and the customers. So I apologize for interjecting. Floor is yours, Councillor Tilley.
No worries at all. It's good, very good point. As you know, that the RBC is near and dear to me, which was the first real job, I guess you could say, I ever had, and I spent a lot of hours with a lot of clients down in that branch of RBC. I just wanted to add a little bit on to what Councillor Windsor was talking about with the storm we had over the weekend. As he said, it was only good luck that Holyrood fared out as well as it did when it comes to the tidal surge, because that's something that we have no control over whatsoever. But I do also want to say thank you to the Town Works and to the work that Marjorie and the staff did in preparing for this. They had everything, you know, really well organized, the trouble spots flagged, and they were following up on it. But I do also want to add just a little reminder that this is the time of year still that we need to have our 72-hour emergency preparedness kits. When Newfoundlanders joke now about, okay, it's a storm coming, we got to get storm chips. We also have to realize we need to have water, we need to have batteries, we need to have light, we need to have gas for generators. If you use generators, you need to use them safely. Please go in, make sure you have the proper 72-hour kit. And also, this is the time of year now, hopefully soon, Mother Nature will turn into winter, because I'm one of those sick people that actually love winter. I love the snow, I love the ice, I love it all. And it's the time that people are going to start, as soon as the ponds crest over, they're going to be out on the ponds. It's very important that you remember you need at least 3 inches of clear ice in order for a human to walk on it. I don't mean slob ice that's white and cracky. I mean clear, solid 3 inches of ice. Very important with our climate. If it freezes one night, that does not mean you can go out and run around on the ice the next day. You have to make sure you have some good freeze days with no rain. So other than that, just be safe. Again, kudos to the fire department and to Public Works and the staff for all that they've done for preparing for this last storm. Thank you.
Very good points. Thank you very much, Councillor Tilley. Any questions or comments on that? Okay. Now we'll move on to communications. Councillor Crawley.
Good evening, everyone. We, as a committee, did not meet as well, but we do have Nola Edison, still working and trying to gather all the information. All the residents in the town should have been contacted in the next 5 days, should be clued up. There are still many residents who are not returning the phone calls, and we spoke on this in our last meeting, really strongly encouraging residents to pick up the phones, speak to NOLA, or return the phone call to the office. We're not doing it to, breach data or gather data or to use it in any other way except for how to get a hold of you in the event of an emergency, or if there's town business that you want to get a hold of. And in among those questions are, what information do you want, and and how do you want to receive it? So if you'd rather have an email, you can get an email. If you'd rather have a phone call, you can get a phone call. There are very important measures that we would like to take in order to have great communication with our residents. So we strongly encourage you to return the phone call. If you have not spoke to someone from this office, reach out. Call us, let us know, leave a message with us, and we'll make sure that NOLA gets back to you and get all that information. Quickly in the new year then, we're going to hopefully meet as a council and decide when we want to push out a voyant and have a presentation and learn a little bit more about that and how it's going to work for our town. So that's it on the communications update, unless Councillor King, City King, did you have anything else you want to add?
Okay, thank you very much, and you can stay on your feet because you have do the corporate services and administration and pay the bills.
Yep. Again, the same thing. We had, of course, brought down our budget on December 10th, and we've had, it's actually been very quiet. So it hasn't been a lot of feedback one way or the other. Fingers crossed that all means good news. Our services, our water and sewer and property invoices will be released by the end of the week. So they'll be coming out shortly. And of course, the mail has started up again. So we will be receiving that by Canada Post. All the rates and fees have been adjusted in our system. So hopefully that won't cause any issues. As we are aware, hopefully the public is now aware that many of our rates and fees were eliminated or were cut by 50% or more. So that'll all be adjusted for this tax year. Business invoices will be released by the end of next week as well. And then our accounts are completed here and we're ready to put a motion forward. Councillor King, is there anything else?
No, I just want to say, from the people that I talked to over Christmas, there was an absolute 100% positive response with regards to the budget, right? Normally, after the budget, you get all kinds of social media garbage and stuff like that, but it's been very quiet, and the people that you talk to seem to be very content and satisfied with how the budget actually came down. So it was good.
Yeah. And we're doing some wonderful things coming up this year with our funds. So accounts, be it resolved, those accounts tabled in the amount of $376,340.79. Check numbers D4518 to D4565 and 46567 to 46713 be approved for payment from the general account. So moved.
Moved by Councillor Crowley. Could I have a seconder, please? Seconded by Councillor King. Further discussion? If not,
General
all
accounts covered some of the Christmas things or Christmas activities that we had for recreation and things like that. So, which all went over really well.
Okay, thank you very much. All those in favor? Against? Motion is carried.
And we still, at the beginning of our year, which is fantastic, a bank book balance of $2,644.29.
You keep her going now, Councillor Crowley, throughout the year. All right, thank you very much. And we'll move on to new business. There is one motion there before I does the go around. So, Councillor King.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I go through the motion, I just want to read a very short, I can't even keep a straight face even when I say it, a little short message with regards to the motion, okay? And it's with regards to Mr. Stuart Fraser, okay? As all of you know, Stuart passed away on November 1st of 2024 at the age of 87. His wife Linda and her cohorts, Karen and Jeanette, are here tonight in the chamber. And I first met Stuart in the fall of 2021 when the mayor assigned me to the Heritage Committee. Okay. Being a history buff myself, Stuart and I clicked pretty quick. He had a good sense. He had a great sense of humor, which I like people with a good sense of humor. And me and him were close to the same age. Right? The best way to describe Stuart, I think, it was almost like an encyclopedia with a beard. Right? And he had a remarkable grasp of history. When you go down there, he'd be always fixing something with tubes and radios and old phones and stuff like that. And when people came down to chat with him, he was almost like Holyrood's version of the Walmart greeter when it comes to people coming in. And people came in from all over the world, and they were absolutely fascinated by his knowledge and how much he could speak on certain topics and subjects, and it was all very detailed. And he spent countless, as did the rest of them down in the gallery. He spent countless hours down there cataloging things, fixing things, putting stuff on the wall, making sure things were done properly and everything else. And he was dedicated to the preservation of the history of Holyrood, and which is very important for the next generation and the generations beyond that. And I think Stuart was the perfect example of what volunteerism really is. And I dug a little deeper today and to try to figure out where he got those types of ideals and traits and stuff like that. And I got some very interesting facts and figures here for you, almost like being on Jeopardy. His father's name was Captain Douglas Cowan Fraser, okay, first of all. And his father was a pioneer in aviation here in Newfoundland. Okay. His father formed the old colony airways in 1931. Okay. So that's a long time ago, and being one of the first pilots here in Newfoundland. His father and another pilot. Anybody know when you say the word Frederick Banting? Anybody remember? Anybody here on is a diabetic?
They discovered the insulin.
Absolutely. You're going to get your first point. Yeah, it was Sir Frederick Banting. He was with another gentleman who were ferrying bombers from Gander to Ireland. Okay. Anyway, they took off, Banting and this pilot, they took off from Gander on February 18, 1941. They ran in some bad weather just by Musgrave Harbour, and the aircraft went down. Banting was killed, but the pilot survived. Stuart's father, along with the other pilot, was the one that found the crash site. His father was inducted as a member of the Canadian Aviation Hall of Fame in 1987. Okay? So, and the ceremony was held in Edmonton, Alberta. And the other thing that he helped do, and I found this to be actually, because it affects every single person here in the St. John's area today. In 1941, the Canadian government wanted to build an airport around St. John's. Okay? And Stuart's father was an advisor to the Canadian government where that airport should be built. Where do you think Stuart's father said the airport should be built? No, actually,
Holyrood.
no, actually close. He recommended that the airport be built out by Cochrane Pond because it had very little fog. His decision was overruled, and hence the airport was built in Torbay, and we're all regretting it to this very day. Right? So if they listened to Stuart, all the flights would be on time. Right? So anyway, with that, I will get to the motion.
Interesting.
Be it resolved, the Town of Holyrood erect a memorial picture and name plaque at the Holyrood Heritage Building in honor of the late Stuart Fraser, in recognition of his contribution and countless hours of volunteerism to preservation of our culture and heritage. Stuart spent countless hours repairing artifacts, cataloging items, framing, and all other activities associated with the preservation of our history so it can be carried into future generations. So moved.
Moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Crawley. Further discussion? I could chime in because I've made several trips to the museum, and lo and behold, as you said, he was like the Walmart greeter. And when you walked in to the museum, the first person you'd see, Linda would be in the office or running around the building doing something, and her colleagues that are here tonight, the bad three, they're all laughing now. I say that in jest. But Stuart was always there, walking the halls. He said very little, but when he got into a conversation with him, he could really tell the stories of the past, and he was so heartfelt in what he said. And you know, the more he talked and told these stories, as Councillor King just alluded to, you know, you could really then understand why this gentleman, and that's who he was, a true gentleman. And you know, you could sense that his heart and soul was into that museum because it meant so much to him in many ways. You go down there now, and I think the box with the penicillin that was first developed is down in that museum. The Telly 10, the first, what is it? I can't think of it offhand. The first thing with the Telly 10 is down at the museum. Like it's just absolutely fascinating, the history that's down within those four walls. But you know, things just doesn't happen overnight. It takes so much time and energy and traveling to pick things up, and I mean, it's just amazing. But you go down and look at that museum now and see how everything is laid out, and the theme rooms, and how everything, every article, thousands and thousands and thousands of articles in that museum, it's all catalogued, and the history is there behind it. And Mr. Fraser could tell the story of everything that's in that museum. It was just amazing. And he'd walk the halls, he'd walk slow, and he'd have a wonderful chat with him. But he'd greet you when you walked in, because every time I was there, you know, probably with the intention of just going in for a half hour and drop in and see Linda and her group, see how they're doing. But anyway, 3 hours later, I'd leave. I kid you not, 3 hours later. But the guy who greeted you coming in, Mr. Fraser, was the same guy who was there to shake your hand when you were leaving. And I tell you, he, again, you know, the contribution that him, not only him, but Linda as well, and her team, in bringing all this together. And he was by Linda's side the whole time. The whole time. Wherever Linda was to, guaranteed Fraser was there somewhere. Or Stuart was there somewhere. So I'm delighted tonight that council has decided to erect this monument and recognition to Mr. Fraser for the great work and the dedication and commitment that he has made to the museum. Like they started from scratch. They started from scratch where there was nothing in that building at all. And I tell you, and I can't emphasize this enough, go down and just walk through the building, and you will just shake your head in awe and say, this is absolutely unbelievable. And now the committee, Jeanette and Karen and Linda and all of her group, they have done, and Todd, he's not here tonight, have done an impeccable job preparing the Jerry Squires Gallery, which is upstairs. And the last visit, I came in to see, just have a quick chat with Linda, and like I said, I was about 3.5 hours later, because we ended up doing the full tour, and the whole story behind Jerry Squires was told. And I tell you, I had goosebumps. I literally had goosebumps. And lots of chuckles, but I tell you, lots of emotional moments too. So I'd encourage everyone to go down and, you know, Todd is available, Linda's available, her group is available, you know, to go upstairs, view the gallery. From what I understand, they had a soft, I guess a soft launch there last week where they had individuals, there was over 100. They came from everywhere. All the artists and people that are into this, they came from everywhere, and the compliments that they've received when people left, they said like this is you can't compare it with anything. It's just absolutely amazing, and I can assure you that as time moves forward and the committee continues to promote, the Jerry Squires Gallery along with the museum, I can assure you that when visitors and tourists comes to our community, that's one of the first places they want to go because the history of Holyrood and the whole area, it's all there under that umbrella. So, um, congratulations to to the group and everything that they have accomplished thus far. And I know they have a lot more plans in the offing. And I'm so delighted, and I'm sure council is delighted to recognize Mr. Fraser by placing this monument in the museum because it's certainly well deserved. Any other comments? Okay, the motion has been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Motion is carried. Okay, that is the motion. So now we'll do the go around, starting with Councillor King. Really? Councillor Crowley. You're good. Councillor Tilley. Oh, come on, somebody got to make a few comments. You're the same. Councillor Windsor. Okay. All right, that is the agenda. The date of the next meeting is February the 4th at 6 p.m. Could I have a motion to adjourn, please? Moved by Councillor Crowley, seconded by Councillor King. All those in favor? Against? Motion is carried. Meeting is adjourned.